What is up, hard rock and metal fans? So, obviously, it's a pretty exciting time for us as well as a sad one. Megadeth has finally released their final album, self titled, called Megadeth, of course, as some are also calling it the White Album. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting to see the varied reviews which are being shared about, how they find this and how different fans are thinking about, where this sits in the ranking of the overall catalog. And with that in mind, I thought what would be fun is to sort of, rank all the album artworks, starting with, Killing Is My Business and all the way through to this album. So, to kick things off, coming in at number 17 for me has got to be Super Collider. Now, apparently, in the center of that collider image that you can see, you can see Vic Rattle's head. But I don't know, I can't, I can sort of see it if you really look very carefully, but even then it's so vague, it's just may as well not even be there. So this comes in at number 17. Now, number 16, I'm going to go with Risk and the new cover, or the cover that came out, I think, in 2004 when the remasters were done, when Dave and company sort of remixed all the albums and remastered them. So I'm going to go with this particular cover, which actually, draws a little bit from some of the video promo stuff that they had going at that time. So yeah, kind of interesting. At least you got Vic on the mousetrap over there if you look very carefully at it. So this comes in at number 16. Number 15, I'm gonna go with The World Needs a Hero. Now, obviously, I'll be very honest. When this album came out, and a lot of guys know this is my least favorite album, the cover art I was not a fan of. I mean, obviously they were trying to do something, trying to show, obviously as it shows here, Vic coming out of Dave's chest, like the alien bursting out of someone's chest, the chest burster as some call it. So this kind of comes in at number 15. Not very inspiring, not really all that great. Number 14, I'm going to go with Cryptic Writings. And again, there are two color tones for this particular album cover, as we all know. There's the silver one with the black outline for the symbol, and then there's this one, which is the black background with the sort of gray, silver, whitish symbol, which is being drawn. And I kind of like this version more with the black background. So this comes in at number 14. Number 13, I'm going to go with The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead. Um, yeah, I think, if this was done in a more traditional style of like a painting, kind of like, what Ed Replica did for some of the album covers, or let's say what, Derek Riggs did for Iron Maiden, then this would have looked pretty cool. This sort of looks very computer generated and has sort of like a video game feel to it. There's just something about it that makes it feel very cold. I don't know. It just doesn't resonate all that much. So this comes in at number 13. Number 12, I'm gonna go with So Far So Good So What. Interesting image of Vic. Obviously holding up that rifle. Obviously going to look at, as some people have said, sort of like a inspiration from Anarchy in the UK, that song, and that's really what led to the sort of inspiration for the artwork. But of course, if I'm wrong about that, guys, let me know. Love to hear from you. Number 11, I'm going to go with 13. Obviously, 13 candles on the front, and Vic on the only album cover where he's facing the other way. It's the back of him, back of his head, and back, and so on. So, pretty interesting color scheme overall. Kind of has an ominous feel to it. So, this comes in at number 11. Number 10, I'm going to go with Endgame. So, Endgame has a pretty cool, blend of colors out here. It shows, all the, prisoners and people marching off to what is an Armageddon in the distance. And these flies, sort of, encircling the sort of, window sort of thing in this wall of this prison and it's sort of overseeing the crowd which is there. So this comes in at number 10. Number 9, I'm going to go with Countdown to Extinction. Obviously, the old man in the prison cell, screaming and sort of, being levitated off the ground a little bit. So that's an interesting image, the way that it blends the sort of the shadows on, the top left and the bottom right, and has the gray wall in the background and so on, and the blue skies if you look through the narrow windows which are there. Coming in at number eight is Dystopia. Now, and a lot of guys would have probably looked at this and said, "Hey, wait a minute, why did you put this over here, and why are you putting, the sick, the dying, and the dead?" Which is obviously both of them are sort of like, computer generated images of sorts, or probably done with certain Adobe or whatever it might be. But I just think that the way the color schemes, come together on the dystopia cover, the blending of, light and shadow, and just the overall image, it just seems very potent. It really stands out in a very big way, and I think it really creates the mood as to what this whole album is about. So I think this album cover really does it justice. So this comes in at number eight. Coming in at number seven has got to be Euthanasia. I just love the color scheme of this. I mean, minusing, the babies on the clothesline and the old woman who's over here. But if you look at everything else, just the color scheme itself, even if they had not had, as I said, the babies or the old woman over there, and they probably just had, just people standing around, or maybe just like a sense of, like a rusted, war machines or something like that. There's just something about this that makes it seem very otherworldly and all, and I just love how vibrant and how the colors pop on this particular cover. So this comes in at number seven. Number six has got to be United Abominations. I just love this artwork, and it's such an interesting take on Vic. It's obviously, and I do remember at the time when this album came out, it's kind of like a sequel cover to the Peace Cells cover, because you can see in the background, just what's happening, and you can see an additional Vic's face, on the building, which is getting, that missile launched through it and so on, and the angel that's, sort of supporting, the main Vic as he's sort of, looking at the war that's happening and the devastation happening just off to a section which we're not seeing, but, he can see it. So the way the colors work and the way it's, it's sort of, drawn out, and being an artist myself, I just found this, to be really well done. Coming in at number five has got to be one of the first of the classic album covers, which is Peace Cells. Now, a lot of guys may not like it. Again, guys, this is just subjective opinion. It's you might have it much higher on your list, but I think as an album cover, this is so iconic. It's so memorable, and the three fighter jets in the background and the devastation that's happened, and that for sale sign with Vic leaning over it. The devastation of the United States, United Nations buildings, uh, and just the way it's sort of laid out, very, very iconic. Number four for me is the latest album. I just love the simplicity of this cover, as well as, the way the flames are, the bluish tinge on Vic's visor, and on, his earpieces as well. And, just sort of like, how he's adjusting his tie, almost like, he's getting ready, for the final point of his existence. And, he's just sort of, like burning and, burning out the way he is. So this comes in at number four. Number three, I'm going to go with Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. This album cover is awesome. Now, I know there are three versions. There's the original version, which I think is serviceable. I don't think it's a bad album cover. It's fine. Then there was the 2002 version, which, those colors really popped. I mean, and I loved it. I really used to love that a lot. But over time, I've noticed that this version, the third version, which is the final cut version, has really grown on me. It sort of shows something a little more, it sort of evokes a more darker sense of imagery. Just the fact that the colors are a lot more subtle, it's more grayish. But just the way in which it's placed, and, just looking at Vic's head that way, I think that this stands out, the most from the three, and I think it really, symbolizes, what the music is as well. So this comes in at number three. Number two has got to be The System Has Failed. Just love this. The detailing on this cover. I mean, even if you look at the back of the sleeve as well, it's just phenomenal. And if I'm not wrong, I think I remember the artist for this was Mike Lone, who was a good friend of Dave's and still is. So he had actually done this, and originally I think this was supposed to be Ed Ripika returning, who did the Peace Cells cover, and obviously the stellar work of For Rust in Peace as well. But there was a big fallout, so Mike Lowen stepped in, and I think he did a phenomenal job. And I think just to give him the time and the context of when this album came out, showing former President George Bush, you can see the Clintons there, you can see Dick Cheney, you can see so many others, politicians, standing in line for what it is that Vic has to sell and so on. So this comes in at number two. And of course, number one, guys, I think it is everyone's favorite, the most iconic, the most visually pleasing, dynamic Ed Ripper, just like tearing it up and just like knocking it out of the park. Rust in Peace. It is the most, along with Peace Cells, I would say, by popular opinion. The two most iconic album arts that Megadeth has got. But Rust in Peace is really the definitive one, according to me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you agree. And I think that it has stood the test of time. So that being said, this is how I would rank all the album arts, album covers. Love to know what you guys think. How did you find the new album? Are you guys going to catch Megadeth when they come into your city? Love to know what you think. What is your ranking? And again, this is just my own. Love to hear from you. Thanks so much, as always, guys, for all the love and support. Take care and rock on.